Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network. Today, I am with the incredible Veronica Yanhs for Ops on Top, folks. Operationalizing your marketing. That's what we're talking about
Yeah,
today.
because
Looking
ops
forward to
puts you
it.
on top of your
Mhm.
business, your game, makes you look like a savior. Because when you care about your business and your team members and even your prospects and your audience, like people who are not even prospects, people who just got a whiff of who you are, it's like it shows. Like you can only put out this social media highlight reel for so long, right? So it's like we've had so many clients come to us saying like I have to put out this outwardly appearance, but then when we get money and we get clients and all that stuff, we're scrambling. Like if you lifted up the hood of our business, you wouldn't like we don't even like what we see, but there's no time. So it's like we really wanted to put together the series this of episodes to showcase the importance of operationalizing different aspects of your business and not just doing that, but just as importantly, when to do each and everything.
And marketing is tough for people because obviously you have to market your business if you wish to have clients. But there are, Veronica said before we got on the call, more ways to market a business than to actually make money. And factually, that is correct. There
But if I'm
are,
wrong, correct me, please.
feel
Correct
free,
me.
but no,
Yes,
it's
I
not wrong.
consent.
The issue is that people don't understand how marketing works. And because they don't understand how marketing works, they don't understand how to systematize it. So I think we start with, when is the right time?
That is a great question. And first of all, here's the thing about working with us on marketing ops with our clients. We always say, like, we can operationalize pretty much anything you have. And the reason why I say this is because our brains are so process driven that, like, if you were to say, oh, hey, I do this, I do this, I do this, I'm like, okay, we can take this information you give us and create predictability, dependability, process from it. What we're missing though is that strategy sauce. We're not marketing strategists. But as someone who is a CEO entrepreneur myself, like I've seen and worked with enough clients and done things for my own business that I can consult on some things, but I never want to say, yeah, we're like the Jill of all trades kind of thing because we're not. So I just wanted to put that caveat there that I am not a marketing expert by any means. So when clients come to us regarding operationalizing their marketing, we'll ask them questions ultimately like, what does it feel good? Like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing social media marketing. Okay, great. We can operationalize that. But before we even do you even like doing it? I personally hate running on the algorithm treadmill, like to fight for that attention, that nanosecond shelf life. Like I'm very much a quality over quantity, unless it's food kind of person. like right. I believe in mile or inch wide, mile deep kind of philosophies. Or if we have to be everywhere all at once, how do we do so in the most thoughtful way, right? So I always am about asking people to really check in like, does this actually feel good? Because if you have to show up for your business and you don't like doing the thing or it's not in your wheelhouse or it feels good to you, it's like you're not going to be consistent about it. And that's what operations is striving to do, is to make something consistent, but it's not just all on ops. Like you have to play your part too. Okay, so that was a ranty tangent, but to answer your question, Briar.
But it's true. You have to
Oh, okay.
love it. You have to love your marketing. You have to love your marketing. And we'll talk about how to judge a little later. But when is the right time for marketing?
The right time to operationalizing your marketing is once you've operationalized the rest of the major parts of your business. So, the reason why this episode comes third is because this is actually the third part of the orgasmic operations method, your presence in the Venn diagram. So ultimately, yes, because I have to be special, we have phases, sure, but everything has to be working together. But if we had to prioritize it, your marketing operations comes last after your internal operations and your revenue operations. Because what's the point in spending all this money on marketing? Because I've had plenty of clients tell us, yeah, we can't focus on operations. We're focused on marketing right now and sales. And I'm like, but sure. What happens when all the tens of thousands of dollars you pay experts to do work to consult for actually come to fruition? Are you able to reap the rewards that your marketing efforts brings you? And I'm based on the data that we've had with clients and talking with hundreds upon hundreds of CEOs and founders when I'm like out at events, it doesn't seem like people are ready because they haven't operationalized how they work on the day to day, the internal ops, how they operationalize how they make money. And so when you bring in all the clients and you're coming into this bottleneck, it's like there's no way you can take and actualize on all the money that people actually want to send to you. And if you are just still taking money because you're like, oh, I just got to take money, you can make deposits. It's like, then that affects, does your team have the ability to implement without bending over backwards, burning out, and such? So that's why operationalizing your marketing comes last. Because if nothing else is ready, you're drinking out of a fire hose.
And that's correct. It's something Alice and I talk a lot about on the marketing show, which is, are you ready for all of these people if your marketing efforts work? So, what does it look like to be ready?
What does it look like to be ready is you're literally asking you and your team. And this is the question that I feel like I've been asking all the time. Like, if your business was to explode, experience 10, 50, whatever X growth tomorrow, would your business be able to handle it? And if the answer is yes, or I think so, just with a few minor tweaks, then you're ready to operationalizing your marketing. But then the caveat is, like you said, Briar, we have to constantly think about marketing, right? So to me, it's almost like this DNA helix. I think I said this in the last episodes or two. It's not a pyramid priority thing where you're done with one, you're going on to the next level or step. It's like a helix. You're working on a little bit at a time. Your marketing, your operations, your it's like it spirals like this so that it's organic and that everybody or every department, every category gets its due time and focus. It's not just ops all the time. So if I was to say that you don't have any of your marketing operationalized, it's like pick an internal piece of your operations, then pick a revenue piece, and then pick a marketing piece, and then rinse, and repeat to build it all
Which
up one at a time.
creates momentum, which Alice and I are also talking about right now because these things are so intertwined. And I think that's part of where people get stuck, right? What's operations and what's marketing, and how can we think about them separately? And the answer is you should not. When I am operationalizing my marketing, Veronica, what do I need to do? What do I need to know?
Yeah, you need to know what you're doing. So when you said that they shouldn't be separate, I agree with you. They're like two sides of the same coin. But it's almost like your marketing is like your what? Like what do you want to do? What does your business want to do to show up in front of people? Then the operationalizing part is the how. How does this happen? Oh, the what is I want to write these SEO friendly, heavy focused blog posts so that I can get SEO traffic. Great. But how? Do you have a process? Like, do you outline first? Do you do keyword research second? Or keyword research first to see if it's even a viable topic? And then When do you write the blog post? Who, if you have multiple people in which you're like passing the baton, who writes, who edits, who okays it? Like sometimes I'm not the only one writing blog posts for Business Laid Bare, but you can bet that I have sat there with the people and my team members to decide what is an appropriate process, aka the title or the topic that we want to talk about. If we don't have a solidified title yet, is the task name. And then we have like so many subtasks so that people know, and dependencies connected to it, so that once the writing's done, if the next person needs to edit, then it notifies them that they can begin editing. And if I'm not the one writing it, then there is a Veronica approval section or task. And it's just like me doing a quick cursory glance. And sometimes I don't even need it. And I'm just like, oh, you all know this topic. I'm just going to delete myself out because it's one less thing I have to do. But we have a process. And then we have like inside our task description and ClickUp, like here is the keyword. Here is the slug, basically the URL part after our .com. Here is the main focus keyword, the headline, the meta description, like the actual body, so that it's really easy, even down to the categories in WordPress, what people are clicking, so that we all know, right? And that to me is operationalizing something. You're creating order, predictability. It's not just write blog posts and upload. It's all these little details, right? And I don't want it to sound overwhelming, but it's also like, hey, if you're listening to me chat, I like to say that we call in the people who know that business is hard, and we don't sugarcoat things. And it's just, I'd rather showcase like the reality behind it and why it's important to operationalize, because if you have so many blog posts going out at once, is everything going out with the same consistency? And then after you are done scheduling your blog posts, what about the social media content that connects to it, right? Then there are some subtasks with that, right? So the more you operationalize how you market, the easier things are, because then there isn't just this like linchpin or this like bottleneck or area for potential failure. And that if somebody was sick, either you pause it and wait for them to come back, or somebody can take over because they know what the process is.
You know, the problem with how, when you
Maybe.
are neurodivergent, especially if you have ADHD, how is kind of a mystery. And I say this to someone who does actually understand this. How do you get there, Veronica?
How do I get there? And with my neurodivergence, like I've personally had friends that have told me that I do have ADHD and that I've just been able to manage or just deal. Like this is not even a conversation that I really was like, oh, this is me. I'm just like, this is who I am. This is how I work. And I have learned that I needed to create a process for myself to make sure that things have been accounted for, because then that quiets the anxiety part of me. So I've learned that anxiety is actually not what I have. It's actually a symptom of something deeper. So I'm just like, oh, if anxiety is coming up, that means that I'm not honoring my needs somewhere, for this example in particular. So for me, this is why I always have like my iPad pencil, because pen to paper really helps me, because staring at a blank screen for some reason, there's a lot of pressure. But when I can just write free flow, draw pictures, doodle, arrows, this is my personal process. I brain dump everything. And even then, like I have team members that I can check with, but like the first thing is always just like this blah, this like word vomit. And that just works for me personally. And this goes back to the whole people first and pleasure filled approach that is so strong with our operations philosophies, because we have to honor how different people process, how different people brain dump, how different people work, right? And for me, my team honors this so that I can get this down. And we also try to be really like cognizant of each other's needs. And so when Michaela and Terry know that this is who I am, they'll sometimes be like, hey, Veronica, we kind of did the work and we assume this is what, based on what we know, what the process is before you create a process, this is what we think you need. And I was just like, oh my God, that's everything on the list. No changes. Or, hey, I'm going to add one more thing into this. Thank you so much for like thinking about me and shortcutting what I need. So, minimizing that cognitive load when team members know how you think made it really easy for me to help make the process a reality. Does that answer any of your
It
questions?
truly it did. One of the
Okay.
things that we know about ADHD diagnosis in women, especially past middle age, is that we get here by developing and creating systems. And your personal systems may or may not be the right ones for your marketing. But I encourage folks to lean into that. There is, if you can, in whatever dysfunctional way you like, make a process that works for you and that people can come along with you, then that's a system.
Absolutely. Because a system is, our definition is the people, the process, and the tools working together to achieve a specific result and goal, or basically something that is consistent. And if this is the case, is the end goal is an SEO friendly, because I almost said optimize, an SEO friendly, heavy focused blog post, what are the people that are involved? Who are all the people involved? What are all the tools and resources that we need to make it happen, and what's the process, right? So if you begin applying this people, process, and tools to each of your marketing initiatives, you're already turning your brain into that process driven, operationalizing your marketing mode, which is more than what many people can say, because you're thinking intentionally, not about the what, but now the how as well. So this is pretty high level, this conversation, because like I said,
Yes.
and like you said, there's so many ways in which we can market. But I think the most important thing is like, if we talk about high level things like this, then people who are listening can bring that to affiliates, referrals, social media, billboards, what have you. The list goes on and on and on.
So, what that means then is that regardless of how you are choosing to market, you have to be intentional enough about the process to be able to say, this is how we do things every time. This is who is involved. And this is key, this is the result we expect. Let's talk about results.
Yes. And I don't remember who said this quote, but something along the lines of what is measured can be managed, or maybe what is, I don't know, but basically in layman's terms for me is if you have a documented process. And to me, like, habits are undocumented processes. So the moment something is written down in a video form, audio form, or text form, it becomes a process. It allows you to see, like, oh, so this is everything that I need to write a blog post. It wasn't just write blog post and hit publish. It was all the little details that I would have. Oh, and then there's like the images, right? That if you put on like social media, there's like the preview image. See, another thing, right? See, even I forget, and we do this as part of our core our core marketing, is because I'm going to forget otherwise. Team members are going to forget. So when we talk about creating the sense of the how, it allows you to see. I'm trying to put this into words. So maybe you can play off of me here, Briar. But it's like, how am I supposed to say this? Okay, how would you think I would say this? Crap. My brain is like going in 10 different directions at once. So this is what I'm learning to like
Not
manage.
ADHD at all. Not at
No.
all.
So help me out here. Help me out, friend, really quick. What you think I would say so that I can come back to not being crazy. I'm going to write this down. You see, this is where my pen comes in handy.
So, what we're looking at here is that the process dictates the flow of things,
Yes,
but that
because
doesn't mean that the flow is guaranteed. So,
I love that.
how do you make things sequential and ensure all of those boxes get checked.
I love that. And thank you. So, when you create that process, it allows you to audit if that process is the best it can be. But if it's always in your head, I'm pretty much guaranteed that you're going to forget something. So when it's documented and you go through the process, did I just spend 10 hours writing something? Or did I just spend more time creating it than marketing it? So having this documented process of how you market helps you measure the energy it takes, the resource it takes, and even the ROI that you garner from this. And even if it's a rolling or slow boil that like things like YouTube and SEO take, it's like, well, what does the data show you? Are you getting more and more traffic or impressions to your business? So when we talk about data and performance and all those fun words that basically say, is the thing you're doing effective? If there's no process to it, you can't say with absolute certainty yes or no. And in this marketing world, you need to be able to certainly say, yes, it's actually helping. No, it's not. Because marketing is always attached to dollars at the end of the day or time. You're paying with time and or money.
And I think one of the issues here is that when we make a system, there is often a desire to make sure that we are like checking all of the boxes. But that's not actually the purpose of the system. The boxes are just a guideline. So, what it looks like then in practice is that you have taken the time ahead of time to define what all of this looks like, and then can go through and visually scan, did we do this? Did we do this? Did we do this? Which is not to say, especially if you have structured this in a project management system like ClickUp or Notion, the number of boxes that don't get checked in my project management system is high, but that doesn't mean it didn't get done.
Correct.
So, how do we let go of the need to check all the boxes?
Sometimes you can maybe not get as detailed. So, to answer your question earlier about how to make it sequential, it's almost like you can go a few ways. One, the easiest way is to hire experts, right? Like in this case, we hired an SEO expert. Shout out to the Love at First Search team. Thanks, Meg.
Meg Casebolt is a genius, y'all.
So, they have been really instrumental in helping us understand the strategy. And then we went ahead and been like, oh, if this is the strategy, then this is how we do it sequentially. So the first step is getting the strategy because you don't want to be like the blindfolded leading the blindfolded. Like there are so many resources, both paid and free. We just chose to cut through all of it and just hire the experts that we know and love because it saved us time. And so
I think that's what we'd call reinventing the wheel. And there's
there's that
no
too.
point in doing that if somebody else has already systemized this process. Whatever the process is, if somebody else has a system, can you borrow that?
Exactly. And when I say the whole blindfolded leading the blindfolded, it's like if you don't know what you're doing and then you're asking somebody else that doesn't know what they're doing, you're going to be spinning your wheels. So this is also where we come in, right? So this is where at the very beginning I said we don't have that secret sauce because we're not marketing strategists, but we've been around the block enough to know what comes first, second, third in a high level way. Like when it comes to things that we do ourselves, especially like email marketing, social media content, SEO, referrals, podcastings, all that stuff. So you can always hire somebody who is operationally minded or hire a marketing ops person into your team to consult with you to be like, this is what I want to do, create a process from it. So like we're that full stack team where we do that for our clients, but we don't do it right away. Cause like I said, there's no point in operationalizing your marketing if the rest of your business cannot handle the growth that that marketing will yield to you. So hire out.
And I think that's key. Who already does this? Who knows how to do this marketing technique and is teaching about it? And what can I learn from them? Is a really important question to ask when there are more ways to market than there are to make money. Like, marketing is the piece that it's interesting because I feel like most people have a lot of guilt and obligation around their marketing because they're not doing it right. And that spirals into shame about not doing it right. And so rather than asking someone who has that experience, we entrench and go, no, I'll figure it out myself.
And like what we even do when we get to the marketing ops side is if someone says, I want to do mailer letters, like postcards, that because they still exist, clearly, they still
People
work.
still do them.
Because I signed up for something. I'm like, oh, 10% off my first like Hello Fresh box kind of thing. I'm gonna try it. Why not? Because it tickled my fancy enough. So it still works, but I have no experience in it. So what we would suggest when we tell our clients, because when it comes to operationalizing, this is where we walk that gray area. How many shades of gray? Many shades of gray. Is we'll say, hey, you told me that this is what you need. Okay, well, you want to do mailers, you want to do social media, you want to do all this. Great. Well, we know nothing about mailers. So why don't you take this document, this needs and requirements document that we've created for you? Because then you actually can say in a cut and dry manner what I want to do, what I'm hoping to achieve from this. Go find someone who's an expert at mailers, get the information from them, and then bring it back to us, and we'll create a process. But like with the team at Love at First Search, for instance, like they had like a documentation. Like they're like, first step do this, second step do that, right? So we took that, added our own flavor to it, populated it into ClickUp, and figured out a way to implement it with our revenue and internal ops because everything played together in the Venn diagram for me. So there's not one way to do it, but always go find an expert, right? Like I think when you are at this point in your business, find somebody that knows what they're doing really well. And then if you need that operationalizing brain, come to us, come to someone who knows marketing operations. Like you can look up marketing operations strategists, even though they might not be advertising them that way. They could be like tech, kind of like tech stack folk. But again, that might not be there, but something with the word operations in their wheelhouse. And especially if they're used to operationalizing their marketing, this is where then you can come in and be like, this is the information I have, the what. Now make it come to life with the how.
I want to talk more about this needs and requirements document because
Okay.
this is something that you can build yourself. You do not need Veronica to build you a needs and requirements document, but it will help you understand exactly what you are looking for. What goes in it?
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, if I could share my screen, but it's faster just for me to talk about it. There when creating a system, yes, the definition is the people, process, and tools that go into achieving the result. But we actually have a process for how we build a system.
Of
Shocking.
course we do.
But in this case, it's actually that pyramid visual. In the very, very bottom layer, the first thing that we always do is gathering needs and requirements that this system of the for the people that the system affects. And I'm not just talking about clients or internal employees and team members. Like, what about stakeholders? What about leads versus prospects and people who are outside the lead and prospect realm, your audience, that those recent whiffers of your business. So it's like, who's affected by this system? What does this system need to be successful? What does version one looks like? What must this system have that's a non-negotiable? And what's a nice to have? And a lot of people miss this part because they just go straight to the tip, which is apps and automations. That's why I say like systems, like apps are just the tip of the system's iceberg because the tip is what people see. It's so pretty. It's automated with Zapier and this and this and this, and it's beautiful. Yeah, but how did we get there? We had the needs and requirements filled out. We also had the goals and KPI section filled out. We also have the process or the setup filled out before we layer on the last thing, which is the apps and automations that make this entire strategy setup framework come to life.
And I think the problem here is that the business world currently is structured to prioritize those apps and
Totally.
automations.
And it's like,
A-
let me show you a visual. See
yes.
this fidget cube that I have? Well, okay, it's not a good visual. I have a lot of toys. So imagine my like lip balm is kind of like that pyramid, right? So imagine this is 3D. The most important layer is the bottom layer. And the least important layer is the apps and automation. But do you know what people always see first? If you tilt it this way, they only see this. So, like, while it's the least important, it's always the first impressions, the
Mhm.
shiny things, which is why it's like we talk about the tech stack and the what it is, the feel good tech stack that I said, the
Your
support,
emotional
you
support
know,
tech stack. Calling all of us out with your emotional support tech stack. And in terms of the way that business is sold to us and as a development process, people start with the apps and the
hmm
automations. So when I am at the base of that pyramid and developing my needs, how do I set aside my shiny objects?
that's true. That's a great thing. Do you want to do like a live workshopping, like how we would do this with clients?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a marketing tactic strategy that you're looking to implement?
Well, see, the beautiful thing about being a media company is that my marketing is the same as my product, right?
Okay.
Me being here with you is creating a product and also marketing it to everyone who watches now and in the future, because we'll talk about the Neurodiversity Media Network throughout the show. But
For
one
the
of
sake
the
of this example,
for the
like, give me
sake of
something.
this example, let's talk about advertising because I'm building that in right now.
Okay. So, advertising. What is the end goal that you would like from advertising?
Lots and lots of money, obviously.
Excellent. Lots of money. So that's a need. That's a need, right? Because
Right,
that's a non-negotiable.
right.
And then what kind of advertising?
I am personally looking for companies that either work with neurodivergent folk or would like to expand out into an accessible market.
Okay. Do these different types of advertising require different processes? Gut feeling.
Yes.
Okay. So immediately in my head, and usually when we're doing this with clients, we have a document that we have on our side that we're typing these down. It's like you want to make lots of money. That's an end goal. Great, because we want to be able to create systems and processes that allow you to make money. And then when I asked you, do different mark or advertising outreach attempts require different systems and processes? You said yes. And it could be wrong, right? At the end of the day, everything we're operating on is a hypothesis.
Hmm.
And if it's wrong, it's wrong. Great, because at least we have data as to why it was wrong and how we can fix it. So, failure is a great thing. And this is me personally growing from a traditional Chinese upbringing. So, failure is great. And now I'm thinking in my head, okay, so Briar might need actually 3 systems to make sure her big advertising container ecosystem works. And then what else do you feel like is a non-negotiable that you need to have for this system to be successful?
So I've been building out the back end system. I need for potential advertisers to submit, obviously, their collateral information. One of the things that I'm also looking to do, though, is building in keyword optimization for advertisers because we already build that process in for our collaborators. So I can
And
offer an
okay.
additional keyword optimization for advertisers who want to be searchable for a specific thing.
Would you say that keyword optimization is a must for version 1, or is it, can we put it in the nice to have because it's more important just to get that
It's
those
a nice to
advertising
have
systems
right
up?
now.
Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. So I'm marking that as NTH. Nice to have. Do you see how, like, I'm asking you questions? I haven't even asked you about any tech yet, which I'm happy to. But do you see how, in understanding your needs and requirements, I'm just like, okay, what is it that you're trying to do? How do you kind of want to do it? What do you like? What is it going to need for it to be successful? And if you're the one in charge of the system and executing it, Briar, what are your non-negotiables so that you will stick to this, or that make the system easy because it aligns with how you work and think? I'm going to
For
write this
me,
down because it's
it
important.
literally has to be laid out step by step by step. And I have to know what all of the variables might be because I am autistic and won't remember.
So
So it's got to be
100
written
step,
down. Yes.
100 subtasks wouldn't
Yes.
overwhelm you.
No.
Okay. You see, that's a need and requirement right there. That's not a nice to have. It's a need because it's literally
Mhm.
preventing you from executing. So I just wrote 100 subtasks. All right. So now let's talk about tech a little bit because tech is what brings the system to life. Are you married to any tech in your tech stack that you must use?
Notion.
Okay. Notion. Anything else?
Truly, no. That is the only thing consistently at this point in time in my business that everything is built into, but everything else around that is should fill a function in my
Okay.
business.
Now let me ask you some few more questions that people often miss that we always ask. How will this new system that you're creating be, actually, let's just make it simple. How will this system feel orgasmic to you?
When it's filling itself out without me having to do the inputs.
Okay. So, like, thinking if somebody filled out all the information you need to upload the assets and it got put into Notion,
Hmm.
that's a win. All
Hmm.
right. So, I'm putting the big O here, trying to make an O face. Filling itself out. Anything else?
Truly, that's the
Okay.
big part.
What does success of version 1 look like? So, when we build this with our client, because I'm just assuming you're a client right now, there is this thought in design and prototyping. It's called minimum viable product, the
Hmm.
MVP, because we believe that progress over perfection is a winner. And if you're waiting till things are perfect before you launch it, it's never going to launch because you're always going to find something to add to it. We've had to caution this with clients all the time, like launch it dirty, and I'm not saying like completely dysfunctional, but what is the most minimum way you need to know to gather data? Because the moment you launch it, you can say like, oh, this hypothesis that I spent like 10 days building this backend for actually wasn't needed at all. And I didn't need to spend all this time because I found there were clients were requesting a simpler way, something like that. So MVP, what does success of version 1 look like?
It looks like me being able to read ads on the air and not having to find them.
Okay. So when I hear things like this, I'm creating a process in my head now, and I know that the person is you. The resource and the tools you need are Notion, maybe Zapier,
Maybe.
maybe. We're not sure yet. Like I always, when I create a process, we always assume it's 100% manual. And we build it that way because then we can go through each process map and be like, oh, this is color coded pink, which is manual for us. Can it be automated? And the answer is yes. Sweet. Let's do it for the next round. So for you, I am gathering all this information to understand what is important. I'm seeing that the biggest need that I'm drawing squares around is that it has to be easy for them to submit their collateral to you. As someone who is a guest on a lot of podcasts, when people make it hard for me to like submit my information, I oftentimes am just like, this was too complicated. Here's my media kit linked in Notion. Name, bio, 5 pictures for you to choose from, opt-ins and lead magnets that we're going to be talking about. Here you go. Here's how to pronounce my name. Right? So it's like literally a media page for podcast information. So this is what I mean by when we talk about the needs and requirements document. Is I'm literally asking you, what do you need for this system to be successful? What are those requirements? What are those nice to haves? What are tech stuff that you're married to, not married to? Like when we talk about things like customer journeys and CRMs, everybody has they're like, I'm married to this. It's like, well, you may be married to it, but based on what you just told me about the needs and requirements, it's not going to satisfy. This app is not good enough for you. So are you willing to like carry that baggage? Or would you want me to showcase how much better and more orgasmic it could be? So this has just been a really quick, because usually the needs and requirements are a lot longer. We gather needs and requirements for every single client system before we proceed, but sometimes we shortcut it and be like, based on what we know, here's what we believe your needs and requirements are. Help us fill in the gaps, or if it's good to go, we can go.
And even just that, I want to be very transparent, was enough for me to go, oh, I know which holes I need to plug. That's because I have an operational background. If you do not have an operational background, what these questions will do for you is clarify who you need to go and ask for help. Because I want you all to really start leaning into the idea that we are done doing these things by ourselves for ourselves. If you are building a business, you cannot do that in a vacuum. You have to be able to go and find someone else who already has this skill, because the when we talk about, I love how spiritual folks talk about compressing time. You're not compressing time here. You're taking your time and reallocating it, right? Instead of the time that you would spend learning how to do this thing, you're going to continue to operate in your zone of genius and pass this thing off to somebody else. And I get it. At early stages of business, things are expensive. You may have to budget for this. But Veronica, when we are determining our needs and requirements, how much do you focus on time and energy allocation?
Oh, plenty. But oftentimes when we get to this point with our clients, we're already doing it for them. So we lean a little bit less. We don't focus so much on that. But literally, this is then where we have this like, I don't call it a matrix necessarily, but I'm thinking about like the time it takes, the money it takes, the ROI that implementing this will yield, and what are the other things? So this is why I have a document, because I can't remember everything, but it's like time, money, ROI. Do you even have the people to do this? And if it's like a high ROI thing, but it takes a lot of money and a lot of people versus like a high ROI thing with like maybe one tick in the RO or in the people and one tick in like the money box. It's like this is how you determine when things go. So when it comes to actually prioritizing time, time is an interesting figment. It's almost like the whole money thing where like no matter if somebody perceives that it's important, they will find, and this is where people become predatory about their sales tactics. It's like if you've sold something well enough, people will do anything they can. Open my credit cards, whatever, withdraw things they would never do to pay you. So I think time is always that way too, which is why for me time is hard
Hmm.
because people, one, don't know how much time it truly takes them to do something if they've never done it or don't think about this. And they don't account for the life factor. I always 3x something. If something is new to me, I'm just like, just in case, I'm going to 3x. I think it's going to take me a month. So just multiply it by 3. And if I get it done in like 1 week, I was like, wow, I learned a lot. And why did I give myself three months to do this? And
But if
two,
you
ask.
don't, right. When it goes the other way and you're at the end of 3 months going, fuck, I still haven't figured this thing out.
Exactly. You have learned a really valuable lesson in time. the one, it's almost like money is that infinite resource, whereas time is like that finite resource.
Hmm.
So, to answer your question, it's really hard to put a time to it unless you kind of like gut feeling no or ask for help on. But the best thing I can ask you to do because you know yourself the best is if this is new, add a factor to it. If you do this day to day, if you do this every day, like you're recording podcasts left and right, and you're just like, I know the process it takes to get from recorded to shouting out to social media networks and stuff. It takes me like an hour. I trust you because you do it all the time. But if it's something new like advertising, to anybody listening, add some sort of life unknown factor to it and start with 3. I know 3 is a lot because if you say I'm going to take 1 week to do this and you say and you multiply by 3 it becomes 3 weeks. Well, imagine what happens when you get done and say like 1.5 weeks, then it's data. You're like, oh, this actually wasn't so bad. And because I hopefully created a process from it while I was doing it, hint, hint, it should be even less next time. So I purposely did not answer your question directly because I don't know the answer to it because everybody's different, but I kind of like pulled it out enough to kind of give you all a gauge as to what you can expect for yourself
And I think that
and track your time.
tracking your time is truly one of the most important things that you can know here. The more you spend building your business, the more you come to terms with the fact that operating outside of your zone of genius costs you money. So, how do we come to terms with that? How do we outsource those things? And how do we figure out what they need to be first? We do an audit.
Exactly. So, yeah. And then you focus on one thing, hopefully at a time. I'm not the best at it right now. I admitted to my team members I'm juggling 3 projects at a time. But because I was able to brain dump, I was like, oh, I actually know. And I knew because I'm like, this is the one revenue yielding project that I'm doing. Oh, that leads perfectly into the stuff we'll talk about at the end of this episode. But it's like, oh, well, this the thing actually yields me revenue right away. This yields me ease of revenue later because then my follow-up game is so strong because we're revamping our CRM and it's looking really, really cool. And when I can share a screenshot, like it's all an active campaign and there's so many like, oh, it's just really beautiful to me because it's all automated and logicked out. But so, well, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because when you were talking earlier and I was looking away, it was because I was literally writing really quickly, like what the beginning process of your advertising process looks like, right? It's people, tools, and
Hmm.
process. So I wrote V1, V2, V3 because I'm just like, what's V1, the minimum viable product? And for me, you want to make it easy to collect the collateral. And if it's
Hmm.
completely manual right now, right, it's fine. You want to make it easy to collect information so it's at least organized. And then step 2, we didn't talk about this that much, but there's that keyword optimization part.
Hmm.
Maybe version 3 is automating the collateral collection. And then so when I started thinking about that, I was drawing out, usually I do this in Miro. I was drawing out things like, okay, the person's going to land on your sales page. They're going to click a button
Hmm.
and then they're going to fill out details, the
Hmm.
deets. So it's like, and it gets more specific than that. But of course, I was just thinking about what that process flow would be so that the system was fully thought out. Needs and requirements, the setup, the people, the tech. This is what I mean by building a system. And it's not just sign up for Asana or sign up for whatever. It's literally
Please don't
thinking
sign up for
through this.
Asana.
Oh, and there's that too. If it works with your brain, if it doesn't
Go
work
right
with your brain,
ahead.
don't sign up for
Please don't sign up for Asana. If you are
it. Okay.
watching this, the odds of Asana working with your brain are not high, friends. I'm just going to be really honest with you.
So I was really grateful that we could actually do this like needs and requirements
Yes.
brainstorm, like mock interview thing. But and this works not just for your marketing operations. We do this for every system, whether it's internal operations or revenue operations or marketing operations, or even just like projects. Like gathering needs and requirements is so overlooked because people immediately jump into thinking they know the solution because other people have earwigged into them or like, oh, I love this app. I love this app. Or, you have to be on TikTok. You have to
No.
because it's the fastest growing. You know what I mean? Like it sounds really appealing to me, but when I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, it doesn't feel good at all right now at this moment in time. Not saying not in the future, but it's just like if
But
it
for
doesn't feel
me,
good,
right now, there will be no TikTok. And I think this is, even if you don't go and see Veronica, you can operationalize this type of question asking for yourself. What do I need? What's important to me? What do
what
I
does my team
value?
members need?
What does my team need? How do we do this in a way that feels good for everybody involved? And you ask those questions every fucking time, y'all. Every time you build something new in your business, please ask yourself what it looks like when it's built. Don't just build it and go, it'll be amazing. Because let me tell you, that's how you end up creating a 15-part course that nobody buys, right? If you're not asking this question, not just about your operations, but about your team, about your customer or client base, you're not going to know. So this leads us fairly neatly into the ways in which we audit our systems. And Veronica and I talked about it a little bit last time, but it's ready, y'all.
It's
Veronica's
ready
self
soon.
audit, it's ready enough for us to give you a link so that you can go and get on a wait list.
And guess what? I can't share it for some reason. So I'm going to share it with you, Briar, here in the private chat that we have in
Okay.
StreamYard. And then you're going to share it out because technology doesn't always work, but I'm okay with that. So you don't freak out. Things are fine. So I have been so excited to put this together because we've been doing assessments for our clients for years. We do it for brick and mortars, nonprofits, service based, business to business based. It's e-commerce, like it's never ending. And we've been so successful with all of our clients. And I'm sometimes waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I think we make our own luck. Seriously, this is the crazy part of me. The anxiety part creeps in. But we've been able to take this exercise that clients pay us thousands of dollars to do, and I turned it into a DIY version so you can have this experience for yourself. And so that's what this link is. It's the DIY version of the operations assessments that clients pay us to do at a fraction of the cost so that finances aren't in the way of you actually understanding what if you're at this stage in your business and or in this financial situation. This is how we think. This is all the things that we think about. This is what we look in all those nooks and crannies that people can't hide from. Like you can fake projection numbers, you can't hide from operations folk. So we've asked like 100 plus questions in this nicely made Notion template that you can use yourself so that you can see where your holes are, how the gaps can be filled, and most importantly, what is the priority of the systems then focus areas of focus you need to be implementing so that you're not doing everything at once. And because our brains have already been in this, it things scaffold. So as you build things, it gets a lot easier. So, AKA, your internal ops probably go first, then your revenue ops, and then your marketing ops. But the roadmap is a little more specific with specific action items in there. So, link is in the comments. And
And in the show notes if you are catching this later.
I am so excited to launch this. And right now there's a wait list because I want to make sure that it looks really good. And we'll be launching the MVP. And for the first people that buy this, when we do make updates to it, because I promise you it's not going to be 100% perfect. I am beginning to just give myself grace. I want to give you, and it's actually already pretty great. People already want it. I'm like, it could be better. So when things get updated, we will be sure to let you know as a thank you for being like a founding buyer of this. And I'm so excited for it. I'm like genuinely excited for this.
And I want y'all to understand that that is the way that you build things with intention and with a foundation so that by the time you go to sell it, it is a joy to do so. And truly, that's what this entire series is about. I know people don't think operations are sexy. Veronica and I are obviously outliers because we love operations, but it is the thing that if you get it right, it makes everything else feel fun. I truly cannot emphasize how much I mean, Media Network. I'm doing things completely differently in my business than I was this time last year, than I was in December. And because I built myself a system before we started, everything has just been easy. I find all of the places where things aren't working and then I can fix them. I know what I don't want to do, and so I figure out ways to outsource it either to my team or to tech. This is how you build something that makes it a joy to deliver. And if you're struggling with this, please stop struggling. It doesn't have to be hard. You do not
The
have to work 60 hours a week. You should not be working from your bed unless those are deliberate bed work hours. That's all. That's a rant for another day.
Well, I felt a stroke of inspiration the other day, and I was just like, I got to grab my laptop to get this idea down so that I can go to bed in peace.
Uh-huh.
But like I tell all my workshop attendees and when I speak, my job here is not to convince you that you need operations. Hopefully, I have inspired you to get excited about what operationalizing the different parts of your business can do for you, your team members, your clients, your customers, and all of your qualities of life and sanity and like peace. So this is why I do what I do. Like if there's nothing you take away from these 3 episodes thus far, the series is that I would love to inspire you to just switch that mindset of getting inspired to think about your operations, even if you're not the one implementing it, but just getting excited about it and not being like, oh, I don't want to touch this with like a 10-foot dildo kind of thing. So I've had
Veronica,
clients,
that
well,
sounds dangerous. 10-foot dildo.
I don't have one. I'm sure somebody out there does. But what
I'm
I'm
sure
trying to say
somebody
is
out there has something like a
we have
10-foot
had
dildo.
plenty of people say, yeah, I know I need ops. It's just this thing. I just know I need it. And I'm like, okay, well, I would love for you to say, I need ops because this is what it would do for me. And I'm so excited for it. I just don't know I don't have the expertise to do it and don't know what to do. I'm like, that's where we come in. And this is our bread and butter, everything that we do every day. This is what Business Laid Bare stands for, is to help impact driven ventures and organizations create that sustainable, uncapped income and impact in a more easeful, pleasurable, and sustainable way. Because if you're truly going to have an impact, it is done by not flaming out. Your legacy is created with small actions and systems that are built over time to withstand time. And I always say, if you want to have an impact on your community, on others, it's like look at your internal business first. Is this the type of organization that it's like that analogy, Briar, where it's like you can't love other people until you love yourself or something like that. Like you
Hmm.
can't help other people until you help yourself. So if you want to make a great impact on the world, which I know you do, it's like make sure that you take care of yourself first and your team members. And that is through operations.
That is correct, y'all.
That's all I got this episode. I'm
This
done.
is this has been delightful. So what are we talking about next time?
I think we should talk about that project management
I
showdown. That
think
seems
we
fun.
have to talk about that project management showdown. All right, y'all. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be back to talk about project management and how to make it work. In the meantime, please do go and get yourself on Veronica's wait list for the audit. It's going to be amazing. I think you'll all benefit greatly from. Truly, I'm buying the damn thing because even with an operational background, somebody else's process is always going to be different than yours. It's always going to open up new avenues of exploration or new questions to ask yourself. Allow yourself to explore operations with a little bit of joy and
Curiosity,
curiosity. It will
and
change your
potential.
business.
Like,
I,
what
I
can
swear
this
it.
do? I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this
Mhm.
business. And if I
No.
don't believe in something, why would I do it? So, this is what I'm meant to do in this lifetime at this stage right now is to
Mhm.
create change and impact and diversify wealth to leave the world a better place through orgasmic operations. That sounds really good.
That sounds amazing. We're going to have to write that down for you. Y'all, this is what we're building here at the Neurodiversity Media Network, this kind of exploration. And if you have not yet subscribed, please take a look. It's neurodiversitymedianetwork.com. Paid subscribers get access to a couple of private streams. Plus, when we are done with this series, we'll create a masterclass page for you with all of the things that we've talked about here, plus some additional resources for you to dive deep and rabbit hole on in the way that my people love to do. So, if you're interested, give us a look. Please sign up for Veronica's waitlist, and we will see you in 2 weeks for project management.